Hello, welcome to Clarity Design. Today we're just going to have a very quick look at the opacity mask and transparency in Adobe Illustrator cs5.5. It's quite straightforward to do when you know how, so let's just go for it. There's not many shortcuts to remember, so yeah, we'll get straight on with it. So well, first of all, if you've got a gradient radial fill like this, or any gradient fill like I've got on here, you can actually use transparency without applying a mask. If you just click on the colour and change the opacity, which is there, then you can actually change the transparency level of it. Let's just make sure we've got that selected when we do that, and you can see what's happening there. You can see that the opacity changes as we go through that. So that's one way of doing things. You might want something a little bit different to that though. So let's go and have a look at the opacity. Now it's in something called the transparency menu. Transparency menu looks like this over here on the right hand side. That's your gradient, that's your transparency. Will also be down in the layers menu in a minute, or it might be. So whatever you have selected appears on the left hand side of the box here. We've got these sunny days that I've written in here. Now the way I wrote that was I used the text tool, and then I got the create outlines from that, and then I applied a radial fill to that. So that's how I generated that. So that's on one side, and what I want to do is play around with the opacity of that. So the easiest thing to do is actually make a mask for that. So how to make a mask for it, all I'm going to do is go up here and go make opacity mask. Now when you make an opacity mask, it makes a black square appear on the right hand side of that box, and that black square is saying black you cannot see through and white you can see through. So anything we paint in grey shade on here, or even in colour on here, the computer interprets as grey shade and gives it a value, basically a 1 to 100 opacity value. So what we're going to do here is we'll just pick one of these middle-y greys, and we'll just quite literally paint on the surface, making sure that we've got the opacity mask selected and not the layer. Otherwise you'll end up painting just colours on the layer instead of on the opacity mask. So let's just drag that across there, draw a line straight through the word, and you'll see what happens. So if I change that colour again, so I can change that so it's whiter, then you'll see that the transparency becomes a bit more solid. We should let's just click there and do that again. Yeah, so we start to see the word showing through. So that's one way to use the opacity mask. There's another way to use an opacity mask. Often we have something that we've set up already. So I'm just pressing Ctrl Z to undo and go through that. I'm just going to release the mask. So I'm going to go as far as to release the mask again. And this time I'm going to draw a rectangle. And the rectangle can have, well, it's got a gradient fill in it already. Let's just go and change that gradient radial. Let's just change it to black and white. So I double click there, I can change that to white, double click there. This probably won't look any good, by the way. And click there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that over the top, and the computer's going to automatically Control Z, cancel, Control Z, and the computer will automatically work out what I want to do here. So if let's just move this word up to that. Actually should be behind it. Yes, it is. Okay, so the computer is going to work out that the top bit I want to be the transparency. So I go and I make the opacity mask, and it automatically applies it for me. And because they're linked together, I can move that around with the safety of that, knowing that they're not going to move separately or separate from each other, and I can set that up. So that's not too bad. So that's basically how to use opacity and transparency masks. You can see there's a few other options in here you can play around with. Basically the best way to learn this stuff is really to go and explore and have some fun with it before you try and do anything meaningful with it, and really learn that way. So there is one last thing. If you've got something selected like this, if you've got the opacity mask selected, when you go to the layers menu, you'll notice that your opacity mask is showing, not your layers, and you need to go back into that. You need to go back to your standard layer, so the text, not the opacity mask, and then when you go to layers, you'll find that you've got the standard layer menu set back again. So that can fox a few people. So hopefully that's clearly explained. I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. So it's been a bit of a long one, trying to normally keep them to under 3 minutes. So this is Clarity Design, and I will see you again soon.